The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, joined, as always, by the sorcerer, standard, the boy.
Fair. Hey.
This is the Two Nerds podcast. There's a bunch of links in the description. If you click them and throw money at them, I will like you.
I mean, look, that's pretty stripped down to the bones.
Yeah, that's nice. Wouldn't you like me to like you? More than I already do. We love you. Just, you know.
You're our precious listener. One way or another, there are people on the internet who give a shit about what I have to say, and that's fucking baffling to me eternally.
Plus,
so, this week...
You invented the SI moonsault,
I mean, look. We could sit here all day just talking about the listeners' many, many, many amazing and wondrous wrestling accomplishments.
Just quickly turn our podcast channel into like a mental support channel. You're fantastic. You held like 1 million titles. I've always thought your mask is really cool.
I feel like that's good. That's our quota.
Except that we can do it like ASMR, and I can.
Please don't. Stop that right now. Stop. I'll punch you.
Gotta get a real floppy wet mouse.
I'll punch you right in the penis. I'm not joking.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is a 2016 movie film for theaters by Marvel. You know Marvel, they make good movies. They make all good movies. They're good. They're Marvel. This movie is good. End the podcast. There we go. Wrap it up.
Yeah, it was half an hour.
Slap it together. It's good.
Put an
It's
image
done.
on there.
It's done. What do you think? Standard operating procedure, spoiler-free review, seconds of silence, sometimes 5, more often like 3.
Here's the trick to this. There's only like 4 spoilers to this film, maybe 5. And like many of those are gotten rid of if you know anything about Doctor Strange, and the rest are gotten rid of if you know anything about how movies work.
That's fair.
It leaves just like one spoiler. But I'd also like to actually, as a rule, we don't do hype. There is one notable exception to this, which was anti-hype, and that was Batman and the Infinite Sadness. But you and I actually had a very long conversation, a conversation that could have been a podcast in and of itself if it weren't so deeply personal. Held on a personal level, not like he insulted my mother and then kicked me in the nuts and then asked me what I thought about Doctor Strange.
That's just Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, that's our ritual. But, oh wow, I didn't realize we put these up Tuesday mornings now, so that's just Tuesday for us. It's just the podcast to the listener. That's cool. That's special. We share a bond now.
See what I did there?
Yeah, no, I really like that. Thanks, man, for pointing that out. But we don't talk about trailers. I don't usually watch trailers. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, he's okay. So first, I need to preface with something. There's a modern trend in trailers of showing you basically the entire movie, beginning, middle, and end, right down to the twist, every part of it.
I think we're falling out of favor with that. Some people are still hanging on to it.
It's like a visual revival of the 80s trend of trailers of a guy in voiceover just telling you the entire plot of the movie. They've escalated it. It's now visually just showing you the entire plot of the movie. But
I prefer the 60s and 70s where it was just, bikers for Satan! Will these damsels outlast these savage beasts? See, hell right to fuck! And you go there and you watch it. It's a nice film about a picnic.
That was a good trend.
I like that shit.
You know, the village marketing. But... So everyone can watch one of those and go, all right, so the plot of this movie is X, 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 then Y happens.
Yeah, like Paddington. I liked Paddington when I was a child, but I didn't go see the film. It was a little more gross out humor than I wanted. I know they do that to appeal to kids today who really like boogers and earwax.
But
it's not my thing. But also, they told me the entire plot of the film, including the central character arc of the father character, in the standard trailer.
So, but these aren't the trailers I'm talking about. Even well-made trailers which do a little bit to obfuscate things and try and missteer you and all that stuff, or at the very least try and save some stuff for the main course, as it were. This motherfucker has an eerie habit of being able to watch a teaser trailer and go, the entire plot of the movie is this. This will be the twist. This will be the twist. This will be this will be the 3 reoccurring subplots. It will happen this, and this will be the bullet for the sequel. Done.
I did that with Brave.
Yeah.
I did that with, like, the second teaser for Brave, which consisted of little girl with a bow, horse, bear, little bears. If you could change your fate. And I was like, oh, okay, the mom gets turned into a bear.
He said this shit out loud. The mom gets turned into a bear. And I looked at him like he was on peyote, because the mom's not even in that. There's no way you could have possibly... But the mom fucking turns into a bear. The mom fucking turns into a bear. This
is less miraculous, but, like... Okay, now let's start from a base here. You saw the trailer to Doctor Strange, you got hype. And I know, to the credit of, to be fair, they combined superheroes and wizards and visual elements from movies you like. They would have had to, like, also say...
And actors I love.
And actors you love. They would have had to say, this is a movie that contains a deconstruction of insert thing the boy does not care for here. And you would go, ooh, well, I'll still watch it.
They had a long road to hoe to get me to not like this movie.
But you saw the trailer.
I was a soft sell for this, we'll say.
At the same time, even, because I think it was the last Marvel movie we saw it was at. Oh, no. DC. It was at Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? What did you feel was going to happen?
When I first saw the trailer, I didn't really even take too much effort to analyze the plot, because it was clearly just a VisFX trailer of big, bombastic shit's gonna happen. But I was like, cool, alright, there's gonna be some magic spells, he's gonna learn how to magic, and then he's gonna, take up the mantle of being Doctor Strange, and then he's gonna fight that guy with the fucking, rock candy for eyes. That's good, we're done, we're set. I didn't need to know more about the plot.
Sure.
But then when you saw it, you talked about how you weren't super hyped because to you the trailer read a very specific way.
Well, yeah, and it combined elements from a bunch of films within that trailer that I range from don't care for to like, but didn't want to see in Doctor Strange. I mean, there's the obvious correlation to Inception.
Which I feel like correlating it to Inception is unfair, because it's not like Inception owns the concept of buildings being a funny angle.
They were inspired by Inception.
But Inception still doesn't own the concept. You say that like, but I'm objectively right. You're not. Inception doesn't own the concept of buildings being at a funny angle. Well, they don't.
All right, but like, and I appreciate that because I've done some reading since earlier tonight, actually, because I wanted to be prepared for this podcast. Because I didn't want to run out of stuff to say. I respect that they went for something different there. Inception has the waggly woobly buildings, but in this movie they tried to go with more complex fractals and
gears and spinning shit.
Yeah, they went quantum with it. They went into quantum mechanics and used some of the geometric principles of quantum mechanics. The thing is, in fast succession, that doesn't play to the eye very well.
They got it just fine. Like, it looked like you could tell they were going for, like, fractals and geometric patterns and a clockwork theme. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It didn't... Inception was a fine movie. And I liked it. But it didn't blow my mind out the back of my head like it did everybody else.
Not me. It's just a fun movie.
You didn't either. And I think that's because the both of us didn't care so much about the ending. Like the top didn't fall over, or did it? And we went, that's fine. Whereas the rest of the world was like, I need to know.
It was more a case of the top, okay, clearly you're not going to tell me. So I just made a call. Moving on. You're never going to tell me. I made a call. That's how the movie ended. If you're not going to give me an ending, I'll make one up for myself.
I watched a lot of indie movies in my 20s, so I had gotten used to, I watched them now too, but in a formative point where I was still dough and could have things inserted into me like that. Fuck, digging myself a hole.
I wasn't going to stop you. When do I?
I got used to a movie being like, it begins here, it ends here. You don't find out all of the relevant conclusions you wanted to. And I can walk away from a film like, oh, okay. I can live with that.
I can do that too, but in specifically the case of Inception, it's okay. Based on what you're going for here, based on the movie you've been selling me, and based on the visual keys and tone you've established up till now, he's in a dream. Top doesn't fall. We're done. Moving on.
But moreover, I mean, it was impressive, and maybe it's because I didn't see it on the big screen, but one would think.
No, it's partially because you didn't see it on the big screen.
One would think seeing Doctor Strange on the big screen would improve that, not simply carry the same weight. It was very much not only have I seen this before, but like this isn't so much Doctor Strange. No,
I firmly disagree. That's a very dude. Dude.
Okay.
There's a sequence in the movie that is a Jack Kirby sequence come to life.
You are correct, but there's a sequence in the movie that is a Jack Kirby sequence come to life. Most of the visual spectacle of the movie is city twerking.
No, that's not true.
I'd say a lot of it is.
No,
there's the fight at the beginning, and then there's the breadth of the end of the second act.
There's a quick little teaser fight in the beginning, you're right. It's not long. It's mostly just to set up that this is a thing that happens and to, open the movie on a big bombastic way.
Well,
there's the second act, and we're getting off track because I do want to highlight that. When we were talking about the trailer, he was concerned that the big mirror thing, people being in... the big scene where he's on a sideways skyscraper walking out, and it's like the scene in The Fugitive where he's just standing on the edge and it's filmed from behind, and it's like the cover of every modern video game. He was concerned that was going to be the second act and they were going to build something else. I saw the Cloak of Levitation, and that seemed like such a big moment, such a big article of power for the character that I felt like he probably wasn't going to put the Cloak of Levitation on until much later in the movie, so I figured that was probably the climax. I was wrong. I mean, I'll firmly admit that. I was entirely incorrect. But having thought about this movie more since I watched it, I still don't love it in the same way I love Civil War, or in the same way I love Iron Man 3. Fuck you, that movie's great.
Yeah, 3's fantastic.
But it's a good movie, and it's a lot of the really good shit in that movie is in the nooks and crannies. It's in the development of the characters, and it is a movie full of big visual bombast. And you're right, there are a couple big set pieces which are about moving parts and big dramatic CGI visuals. But there's a whole long dedicated fight scene that's just people throwing magic spells at each other.
Well,
in a house with magic items, and there's magic item fights.
Yeah.
It's a Doctor Strange fight sequence. He throws a guy through a portal window and then turns it to a different portal window and throws another person through the second one and turns that one to a different one too. That's fucking Doctor Strange.
I feel like we've gotten off of our original point and onto a later point. Let me finish, and then I would love to talk with you about what you're talking about. I thought that was a problem. I thought the clear Matrix inspiration was a problem, and I called that one too. They were inspired by the Matrix.
I mean, that one I feel like it was obvious they were inspired by both those movies.
Sure. And it's not that that's inherently bad, but that's not what I want from Doctor Strange. To me, this is for your big crazy steampunk movie set piece. This is for your big crazy, future, cyberpunk set piece. This doesn't scream Doctor Strange to me. This doesn't scream eldritch horrors, weird dimensions, space, and magic.
But they get to all those things. All those things are also in the movie.
They do. And I have different critiques. I want to get there. The other thing I was worried about, it was going to be a lot like Batman Begins. And it definitely had a lighter tone in general.
And it wasn't like Batman Begins.
No.
It held a similar structure, but I would say it's not very similar altogether.
I would say that it was better than I expected, but it is not as good as I could have hoped. This is one thing I was completely wrong about. I was really worried they weren't going to do magic, like the colorful runes and shit. because they didn't show fucking any of it.
But they did. In the trailer, there's a bunch of him wielding, like, energy mandalas and shit.
I somehow must have missed all of them.
You were busy being worried about the Inception buildings.
I mean, it was dominant, so if it was one of those flash cut things, I could have missed out on it. There were certain other plot elements that I was fucking confused about. Let's just say we end the spoiler-free version here. I think it was okay. If you like Wizards, and you like any of the movies I just mentioned, good God, go see it.
I like all the movies he just mentioned. I like Wizards. I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I like superhero movies. I think I'm just going to finally have to admit that I'm not really all that objective when it comes to superhero movies. I'm a soft sell. I'm probably going to like your fucking superhero movie. All that said, this movie's pretty good. So if I'm damning it via faint praise with all that shit I love in it and I don't love it, that might be a fair criticism to take. But I did like it a lot. I liked it about as much as Ant-Man for very different reasons.
I liked Ant-Man more. But anyway, for the exact reasons that I have a problem with this film. But that's... Your spoiler-free section is over. We're moving on. No 5 seconds. Live with your life. Not that I'm going to drop any bombs. Like I said, there's not a lot of spoilers to be had here.
Doctor Strange dies. Snape kills Dumbledore.
Snake kills Dumbledore. Sometimes on the battlefield.
I believe Snake can pull that off. He killed Psycho Mantis, man. All right,
Yeah, but he had to plug his controller into the second slot.
So he's got to plug his controller into the third slot now. Dumbledore can't be that much more badass. Psycho Mantis could read my memory card.
Shit, I wasn't expecting that. Good play, Snake.
Oh, it's a movie, Dumbledore? Oh, he's fine with the first controller.
Anyhow. Do you want me to just go into the criticisms I have with this film?
I mean, you can. There's a lot. And you know what? I'll happily, since we're playing sort of a back and forth here, I'll happily go into the stuff I really liked about this film because
you know what? Okay.
Aside from all the visual bombast, of course I loved that. It's fucking cool. But aside from that,
I'll save my final thoughts for the end, the summary. And I will say that I thought, although I wasn't pleased by the portrayal chosen for Doctor Strange specifically, the acting was fine.
They're clearly setting him up for when Robert Downey Jr.'s done.
I could see that. But regardless, everybody in the movie's acting was fine.
Yeah, really solid acting.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't for once go, that's an actor. I was drawn out of it by Benedict Cumberbatch. Not because he's Benedict Cumberbatch, but because he was doing a really spot-on Tom Selleck impersonation for 3/4 of the movie.
Like, basically until he really embraced becoming Doctor Strange. The original, Doctor Strange, the actual medical doctor, was apparently just Tom Selleck without a mustache. Then he grew the mustache and lost the impression. And it's a weird reversal.
I feel like late season Friends. These are just mistakes you've made.
Yeah. Mustacheless Selleck is Selleckless mustache.
Yes, mustacheless Selleck is Selleckless mustache. Moving the fuck on. It wasn't a bad performance. It was just like, as much as they softened Tony Stark for the big screen, and as much more of an asshole as Tony Stark is, man, Doctor Strange was a fucking prick.
But you are underselling how much of a fucking prick he is in comics.
Okay, but here's the problem.
He's a fucking egotistical windbag dickweed.
At this point, and I can't expect it to get better, because the last time I did, I was burned very hard.
Fair.
I'll explain that in just a second, once I make my point. I wanted closer to Vincent Price / Byron Orpheus. Not all the way. That's silly.
Silly! Probably didn't need to happen.
No, right. But the verbal and vocal bombast, the energy behind the character, I wanted that, not the Doctor. And we got the Doctor by the end.
But forgive me for being John Oliver about it, but it's current year. Like, that wasn't gonna happen.
Well, okay, but it's only... They had to work so hard to get me to not hate this character anymore.
They did.
And they didn't take it very much farther beyond that. I feel like twice I've been burned like this. I feel like I did at the end of Man of Steel, where I was like, I
Right,
don't
but he's a
know,
dick.
man. Superman's a fucking asshole. Why is he making haha jokes? And I feel like I did at the end of, again, Batman Begins. Why does he sound like this? I assumed, oh, this is clever filmmaking. They're going with a rougher version of the Bat voice. He'll iron it out. And then 2 movies later, we got, so that's what that feels like.
No, Christopher Nolan is bad at telling his actors when a choice has gone wrong.
Yes, and these are different directors. It's a different fucking comic book company. So, you know what? Maybe. But I can't hope. I don't want to be disappointed again.
That's absolutely fair. I don't think he's going to become...
I don't think
I don't think he's
either.
going to head in that direction.
No.
That's clearly not the interpretation they're going for. And honestly, it's not the interpretation I think would be best served. I think he would be wildly out of place with the rest of the MCU.
And I think a lot of the problem is also that Thor already fills that spot.
He's the big bombasty guy.
He is.
Because he fits it much more naturally.
Well, and because they needed a big bombasty guy when they set up the Avengers, and Thor has become kind of memey these days.
And, well, Ragnarok will probably help.
That is to
It's been a
say,
while since we had a Thor.
Of or pertaining to memes. I know how to pronounce that word.
Just okay, buddy. But I think he would be wildly out of place because Thor grew up in Asgard. Stephen Strange being like that would make no fucking sense because he grew up in the real world in this era. People don't fucking talk like that.
Well, and another problem with the film is a lot of the timeline is kind of hard to interpret. We're getting this movie after, the third Avengers movie, the third Captain America movie. So we've seen a lot of super shit already.
It's clearly after Avengers 2.
It's not.
It definitely...
The second part of the movie is. I found this out in my reading, and I didn't know it until I read it.
I could imagine because...
When he goes to Kathmandu, it's... I don't know when exactly.
Because he's there for a long time.
Yeah, he's there for a fucking long time. By the end of it, he's present-day MCU.
So, I mean, that's fair. You start you start when he's younger.
Sure.
I'm sad, because that means that nod to War Machine.
No, it wasn't. Well, and the age was off and some other shit. There's been some theories online that it was one of Justin Hammer's tests.
That's probably, in some experimental armor, it would be right around Iron Man 2 timeline-wise. And that would explain why he was in Shambhala that whole time.
And it would explain why he had such a hard time believing in magic when aliens had not yet invaded New York.
That's true, but we see a skyline of New York at one point, and the Avengers Tower's in it. Is that after?
Might have been the Stark Tower.
No, it had the fucking A, not Stark. It had the Avengers A.
That's true. Maybe that's strange because I've heard word of God that it's not supposed to be like that, but I think that was an early shot.
Maybe it's later than we remember.
Yeah,
it bears watching again.
Yeah, but... and movies have plot holes. I was talking to Brandy earlier, and to that point, I wanted to address this later, but I'll go ahead and say it now. This movie did the best with what it had. They had 6 months to do post.
Ooh.
For an effects-heavy movie, I think they did a great job with what they had. But I said after we got out of the film, those effects were not up to snuff.
I don't know that I agree. I think they were fine.
I don't think they're going to look good on the small screen. And I think they're going to look shit 10 years from now.
Oh, I think those won't age well, but I think for what they are now, they're fine.
On the big screen,
if you ever go back and watch the first Thor movie, those effects didn't age well.
No, well, the first Thor movie was kind of like Hercules, the legendary journeys. But sometimes you can see a movie and the effects age well and people are comfortable with it, etc., etc. Sometimes you get Spider-Man 2.
Which looked fine at the time, but hoo boy.
Do you want to see cartoon Doc Ock fight cartoon Spidey? Because it happens.
A bunch. But there are really good parts of this movie. I like that Stephen Strange is a different kind of hero. I like that he is the character that he is, and I most especially like how they portray him being slightly different. Like, even Captain America, who is probably the most compassionate of the Avengers, at least in the MCU Avengers. He's a soldier. somebody's in his way, they get put down, and they get put down hard.
Right.
Stephen Strange has to fight a guy to the death to save his own life, and his first action when he gets to the guy is to check his pulse, try and save his life, see if there's anything he can do. That's a great way to sell him being a doctor. It's a great way to sell him being compassionate, and he's genuinely broken up about it.
And I also appreciate that a character kind of calls him on his shit and says, this is at least in part your ego.
But that's the whole message of the movie, is that it's mostly his ego.
Right.
The entire character arc is him learning to let go of his ego and his need to win every time. That's how he ultimately wins, which, by the way, I fucking love the ending of this movie.
Oh, no, I thought the ending was really well done, and, I feel like this movie took the gambit that Guardians of the Galaxy did. Most of these characters are a pretty significant departure from their comics interpretation. Strange is the closest, but he's still a decent...
Honestly, aside from being played by Tilda Swinton, the Ancient One's not that far off.
She's not a super, Chinese Tibetan stereotype.
Well, like I said, aside from being played by Tilda Swinton, she kind of is.
Thinking about it, I guess it's subverting the stereotype by literally just not to the letter of the law being the stereotype. But
also, she's sassy, and that helps.
A lot of the modern interpretations of the Ancient One are sassy. Self-deprecating, even.
Sassy's good for the Ancient One.
Sassy's good.
You don't get to be the Ancient One without learning at least a little bit of sass.
But as I was talking about before, if you know anything about Doctor Strange, you know what happens to the Ancient One. You wonder why the hell Baron Mordo's a good guy, and
they do that well. They do a really good origin.
It's really fucking different because they've replaced Baron Mordo with Caecilius in terms of that's who that character is. I mean.
Yeah, Caecilius is classically who Baron Mordo is.
Yeah.
So Baron Mordo...
Caecilius is just some noob who hangs out with Mordo.
Yeah. So Mordo is going to be someone different, and I honestly think it'll be a good interpretation.
Yeah, I mean...
It's very, very different. He's not wrong.
They took the Guardians of the Galaxy gambit, and I think in a lot of ways they succeeded. I just think the way they didn't succeed was making a strong movie, whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is a fucking amazing film.
Well, to be fair, they didn't know James Gunn.
And, I have to wonder, what else the problems were. The movie didn't have the strongest script. The pacing wasn't awful, but it was rushed, because they would jump, not to the point of whiplash, which you corrected me on, and I would agree with, but they would jump from a very dirt serious scene to, fucking comedy.
Well, I agree
with that.
They injected levity into serious scenes that I honestly think benefited from it.
I do. I just think it was a little fast. And I'm being a little nitpicky here, but when you're trying to go for an emotive thread, maybe if it were more reacting with darker laughter, gallows humor. Not that it wasn't gallows humor, but if it were treated like gallows humor instead of and now this is the comedy bit, I think I would have felt more natural about the flow of the movie. But it isn't. It goes from being everything's fucking serious to, you know how it is.
There actually is a really good moment of it being gallows humor.
There is. At
the very end of the movie, and it's a perfect payoff to a movie-long joke. That is a brick joke that hits with the force of fucking Mjolnir.
It was good. It felt good.
But
Wong in general is a better character.
Wong is a great character.
Way.
I love Wong being formidable. I love Wong not being a fucking toady.
Yeah.
That's, good interpretation. Solid work. He's definitely a much needed foil.
I like what the script did. I'm not fond of the fact that they spent so much time with Dr. Stephen Strange pre-magic.
You have to set up what a dickbag he is. Otherwise, there's no emotional payoff to see him learn and see him grow and see him accept his role and then ultimately be incredibly heroic in an amazing way. And in a way that grants him no glory.
And this is how I liken him to the Doctor, especially towards the end. And I'm not necessarily saying this is a bad thing, but this is also a reason I don't watch Doctor Who.
Okay.
At the end, he acted big, he talked a good game, but that man knew he was going to win.
Well, because he no,
Yes.
that's not like the Doctor. That's like Doctor Strange.
Well, I mean,
That's how Doctor Strange beats Dormammu.
right, but it's not a, like I said, it's not a bad thing, and I'm not saying it's even bad for the character. It's just, again, he was such a fucking asshole.
But he knew he was going to win, but the entire motivation, the entire methodology, everything about why he knew that was different than in the beginning. It's actually a really good mirror because he ultimately knows. It's not that he knows he's going to win, it's that he knows that he has what he needs to get what he wants, cuz he doesn't win.
Let me see if I can put it a certain way. You are, for the sake of the listener, of the belief that Empire Strikes Back is the best of the original trilogy.
Oh, it definitely is.
Okay. I feel like this movie is Empire Strikes Back without A New Hope.
Really?
It starts bleak. It ends pretty bleak. Not a lot of great things happen. There's character growth. There's good moments. There's I love you, I know. But at the end of it, shit's fucked up, man. And at the beginning of it, shit is also still not great. And through it, some people we like died.
I mean, you're not being inaccurate. I think you're being a little simplistic, but I can understand where you're going.
Yeah, it's an hour-long podcast tops, So, I control the network, so I can make it longer if I want. But I'd rather not be here all night discussing Doctor Strange. Yeah, I mean that was the easiest comparison I had. It's not like I had this in my back pocket. Just I just don't feel like everything sung.
And I don't know that I could disagree with that. I just didn't have as high a standards for it. I didn't need it to be a masterpiece to enjoy it,
And I mean, I'm not trying to say that I am. You know what? I liked Ant-Man better, but I feel like Ant-Man, all the pieces fit.
And unfortunately, there's nothing to discuss there because that's an entirely emotive reaction.
Well, no, I think I can explain it, and I think I can be concise about it. Okay, so, for example, the problem I have with the pacing of the humor, most of the characters who are cracking jokes are either doctors or barely fleshed out villains.
Wait, no, I would say Caecilius is a very well fleshed out villain.
Caecilius has a good motive. 110% solid fucking motive. I don't know shit about him as a person.
I don't know that you know about as much about him as a person as you need to know.
Oh, right. I'm not saying he was a bad villain. I'm just saying in terms of his character, I don't know if this is in character or out of character for him. I have no baseline.
That's fair.
It didn't immediately seem like it would be in character for him, but you know what? Upon reflection, I don't fucking know.
He might be a guy who just...
He might be a quirky, funny motherfucker. I really have no idea.
Who also happens to be crazy.
But doctors, they will make light jokes like that. That's how they work. That's how they deal with their horrible shit jobs. But if you're not a doctor or you don't know doctors, you don't know this about them. I'm not a doctor. I can step back and go, okay, I know doctors, but it still rubs me the wrong way when it's like, that's so weird. They're not processing their emotions. It's just instant wall, instant joke, move on with your life.
I know a doctor
quite intimately. And I know a couple doctors way less well, but, I know that's how that works, so I can be cognizant of that, but I don't feel it as much. And, I mean, that's a weird shot to take. It's one of those things where, yes, it's accurate, but I don't necessarily know if that's a good design decision from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah, but, it's a really good character trait that you can use. It's a good tool for your character toolbox.
And it's one of those things that doesn't take much to call out, to point out.
No, for me, that's tell, don't show. You don't point that out.
I mean, maybe. And, I mean, we're getting into heavy nitpick territory here, but I'm trying to just... describe the difference between two Marvel movies, which are very low on my favorite Marvel movies list, just above good old Iron Man 2.
I liked Iron Man 2. I recognize I'm one of like 2 people on the planet.
There were parts of Iron Man 2.
Me, Brandy, and the director of Iron Man 2.
There were parts of Iron Man 2 I liked. There were parts of Iron Man 2 I didn't.
Sam Rockwell dancing. Got his name on the first try.
And you did, man. I always forget his fucking name. I always have an easier time comparing Doctor Strange to Iron Man 2, so let me go ahead and do that. Everything that was great about Iron Man 2 was fucking fantastic. Everything that was bad about Iron Man 2 was unexpectedly shitty.
Okay.
Everything that's great about Doctor Strange is pretty good. And everything that's bad about Doctor Strange is, not that bad.
So it's higher by virtue of being a flatter curve?
Yeah, it's like, when you throw lasagna into the microwave, like one of those fucking frozen dinner lasagnas.
Right.
And you cook it, and there are spots on that lasagna that will melt your face off.
And then there are spots that are actually still pieces of Stygian ice.
That's Iron Man 2. Doctor Strange is a well-cooked lasagna that got left out on the counter overnight, and it's about room temperature.
So it's not lighting the world on fire. It's not great, but it's food.
I can eat this.
Yeah.
I will eat this.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. For me, it was like that same lasagna.
It just happens that lasagna is your favorite food.
Yeah. I really, in this metaphor, I really fucking love lasagna.
Yeah. What? Wizard superheroes? Fuck.
You couldn't have, a wizard superhero Batman is about the only way that was going to get improved.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of also a ninja.
He's kind of also a ninja. He's also, a super rich guy who goes and travels there are slight, parallels. Look, all right, I was always going to like this movie.
Yeah.
That I don't like it more might be a more hefty criticism than much of what we've said.
And I don't hate it. I don't. I wouldn't even say I dislike it, but that's largely because I've invented a broader middle range for my scale. I wouldn't care if I never saw it again.
Whereas I want to own this movie on DVD. I want to see this movie again. I feel like the emotional journey of the couple of the characters is worth revisiting. And I really enjoy the pitch perfect Doctor Strangeness of that final act. There's tiny shit. There's tiny shit that's I love. The Avengers get into a big fight and they, destroy the city they're in and blow it up from space, and it's terrible. Doctor Strange gets into a big fight, literally rebuilds the city he's fighting in. Literally rebuilds it from destruction. That's an amusing parallel.
Sure, and it's one of those things that no one's ever going to know, kind of shit. And
that's a key part of the character's arc is that he defeats Dormammu. A big part of it is that throughout the movie they highlight that he's great because he's unwilling to fail. They do it in small ways and large, and then eventually someone just straight up calls him out on it. And it's a great arc for him is that one of the reasons that he's so successful at everything is because he's so terrified of failure. He wins ultimately, as you would expect, by being willing to fail again and again again.
I mean, it could have been stronger. And I don't mean that point could have been stronger. I think the character moment could have been stronger.
It was originally. Some of it got cut.
Well, and you know what? I mean, to that extent, I think this is a movie that could have used spit and polish.
Honestly, this is a movie I think that can use a director's cut.
Yeah, I might dig the director's cut. Because there were scenes where 2 seconds would have really fucking helped.
But, in the end, it also would have been a great way to sell his Dragon Ball Z level up and wizard powers.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, he is stuck in a time loop with Dormammu, and which people online are bitching about how they're pronounced. That's always how I pronounce that word. That word's clearly Dormammu.
Pronounced it as well. I don't know.
But he's stuck in a time loop with him, and he just keeps getting killed. At one point, in the original script, they say I forget what the actual line is, but it's something along the lines of, "Look, we've done this a couple 1,000 times now. I'm willing to do it 1,000 more." He's gotten killed by Dormammu thousands of times, like Groundhog Day by the end of it. So He becomes a much better wizard in just fucking Dragon Ball Z fighting Dormammu in the time dilation chamber.
Yeah, I mean that's it's neat, and I appreciated the cuts they made during that quote unquote fight where he looked panicked or he fought back. Because in that repeated time loops, you're going to go through a range of emotions and you're going to go, oh God, is this worth it anymore? I've got to fight. Sometimes he'd just be
And
like, go ahead, crush me. And sometimes he'd be fighting for his life. I appreciated that.
And there's, there's the fight or flight response and the inherent will to
Mhm,
survive.
mhm.
And there's always that chance you might win.
Well, yeah, and I mean, but it was a safe bet. I would have liked it if the odds were stacked a little more against him. I just most
But
of the
it's
problem I have with this movie is in a 6-month editing time, and 6-month post-production time.
just a little bit more time for the movie to breathe. 5 minutes more runtime here, there, splashed liberally. I
Yeah.
think would do a lot to improve the
I
movie.
agree entirely.
Because I've been fighting your criticisms a lot tonight, but I don't necessarily disagree with them. I just feel like the alternate perspective could be useful.
Sure, and I don't want to shit on this movie, and I appreciate that you're doing that because, like I said, I didn't dislike it. I had a good time. I'm glad I didn't pay full price for it. We went to a matinee. I'm sure as fuck didn't see it in 3D. I mean, that would probably have been cool.
Look, unless they stop offering 2D movies, I'm probably gonna not do that. It's just never worth it. It's just never worth it.
I mean, this is a big visual spectacle, but like, I
don't care.
Yeah, I'm old enough that I don't need shit to poke out at me unless I'm like at Disney World and I'm like set for that. You know what I mean?
It's just I don't unless you literally only offer it in 3D. I'm probably not gonna see your movie in 3D. And if you literally only offer it in 3D, I might just not see your movie.
I'm hoping the second film is more of what I wanted to see from Doctor Strange.
I love a lot about this movie. I do. There are parts of it that have problems. But ultimately, I think it's worth a watch. I think it's definitely worth your money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I would say don't go see it. But make up your own mind. If what we've said... I mean, fuck, if what we said in the beginning, it's a lot like these 4 movies smushed together with Doctor Strange paint heavily on top of it. I don't want to seem like it's not Doctor Strange enough. It's just...
If that sounds like a good movie to you, guess what? It's a good fucking movie.
Yeah, go see it. You'll have a great fucking time. I mean, to me, it just didn't hit the right notes. It didn't hit the notes I wanted, and I wasn't unexpectant of that. I thought it was going to happen. And, like... other than them actually using the magic the way I wanted them to, and a delightful jaunt through various realms. Brief though they were, I did appreciate them.
The part with the fractal hands coming out of hands, I think, was exceptionally begun. That's some acid trip Jack Kirby in the middle of doing some coke shit. Okay?
Yeah, that was some fun stuff. Well, that's more of the stuff I wanted to see. And like you said, the fight in the Sanctum Sanctorum was cool, and yeah, it was cool. That's the kind of shit I wanted to see. The walking on the building shit, the training in Carmitage, that less was the stuff I wanted to see. And I understand that it had to be there because it was an origin story and not everybody knows about Doctor Strange, but that doesn't mean I wanted to see it. You know?
Fair.
Like, I never at any point would sit here and say, this movie shouldn't have been made, they should have done this movie another way.
It's not that you wanted it to be the movie that you wanted it to be. It's just that you knew it wasn't gonna be the movie you wanted it to be.
Right, and so I tempered my expectations. And perhaps because of that, I can sit here and go, it's okay. I never need to see it again, but it was okay. I hope the next one's better. If they follow through with what they gave us in the teaser, not even plot-wise, but just character-wise, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. If they give me more magic and, Wand of Watum and shit like that.
Expect the building moving thing to be around. Strange got to look at the thing. Expect that shit. That's a visual cue for them at this point. Expect that shit to make a reappearance. Make your fucking peace with it now. It's a cool magic spell, and you know it's a cool magic spell, and it's one of several magic spells that get employed. And the cool, non-Euclidean geometry is very Doctor Strange.
Sure. I also wish they wouldn't have buried the lead so hard, but again, Doctor Strange origin story, less about extra planar monstrosities, more about bad wizards doing bad magic. Look, I know you guys are probably going for Nightmare next time. I know that's been whispered about. But, if you could throw me a little die roll of Shumagorath, I would not be mad.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of mileage out of me with Dormammu. I appreciated a Benedict Cumberbatch performance, so... At the time, I was thinking, whoever's doing Dormammu is doing a damn fine job. Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch, okay.
They just had him do both.
I guess throw enough vocal filters on Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm like, yeah, good stuff.
Smog was good too.
Hey, Smog was all right.
Um,
He wasn't hateful, except poorly edited, but that wasn't Smog's fault.
no. I don't know that there's anything else to say.
I think we belabored the point a bit much, honestly, but like, I am torn between wanting to assail this movie for its sins, not to use an overused phrase, but at the same time defend it for its weaknesses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, basically.
Like, you poor movie, you deserve better than this. You had such ambition, and then I'm guessing about 5 people failed you really hard.
Whereas I would say you didn't fully deliver on what you promised, but you gave me enough of what you promised that I'm not mad.
Well, and the several hundred other people involved, they picked it up. They did their fucking best.
I think a director's cut would help this movie immeasurably.
You know, and you know what? If we get a full director's cut, and that's not just like, here's the movie, and then you can watch these scenes completely out of order, the extra 4 seconds we've added. I hate that shit. Put it in the fucking movie. Then I might watch it again. I might. I don't hate it. It's not like I find it detestable. It's not like if you threw it in the DVD player, I'd be like, get it off the screen. But tune the fuck out.
Honestly, I think if you watch that movie while doing something else, you might like it a whole lot more.
Oh, it'd end up being like an old friend, perhaps. You know, just like, Doctor Strange, the thing I listen to while I write shit.
Yep. I think that about wraps us up.
Does it?
Yeah. Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
It's kind of like a spell for you. I've wondered why you've been doing those weird finger movements when you say that.
No, that's just for fun.
Fuck it.